All right. Thank you for having me here. It's great to be here. I feel very honored to have been invited to be part of this session. Um, Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Oluwayomi, for reaching out to me. So it's always an honor to talk to young people, which I consider a lot of you pretty young people in the prime of your lives. So I'm going to be talking very briefly on career building, which a lot of you might find yourself in that position where you're trying to build a career at this time. My name is Tola Alabi. I am a I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I mentor, but I started out doing graphic design. So I'm a designer at heart. At my very core, that's what I am. I think like a designer. I see the world as a designer, and that's what I really enjoy doing. Um, and I studied architecture in school in Obafemi Awolowo University, and that was many years ago. It's been over 20 years now that I graduated from the university, and today, I'm talking to a lot of you um, who are either core members or maybe still in university, looking forward to being core members one day, or some of you that are just finished your youth service or are looking to finishing your youth service. I really want to talk to you because I think it's very important. Because NYC is an interesting thing. Um, I remember when I was in school, when I was in university, I was always praying that NYSC would be scrapped before I finished, and but it never happened. I prayed it to be scrapped because I just felt it was unnecessary. I felt it was too much suffering for a long period of time, for a whole year. I felt like it was a delay in my life, in your progress in life. So I wanted it to be scrapped. And I was talking to my daughter some days ago, and it's amazing how she told me the same thing I was wishing for when I was younger too. She says, "Oh, by the time I'm old enough to do NYSC, they would have scrapped it by then." But I highly doubt that will happen anytime soon because it's too profitable a venture for too many people for it to be scrapped. And I don't think it is altogether a bad idea. Although it has limitations, I feel it also has its positives. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what I term inactivity, the importance of inactivity in career building, in building your career, why sometimes it's important for you to be doing nothing. And this might be strange to some people because a lot of us feel like um, doing nothing is retrogressive. When you are doing nothing, it is anti-productive. And I want to challenge that a bit. I think it's a problem because people see activity as progress, and so every time people are looking for activity, and I really feel that it is the presence of activity that makes people lose clarity. A lot of people don't have clarity about what they should be doing with their lives because their lives are too full of activity. Your lives are too full of activity, and that's why a lot of people are confused. And so we always see moving as progress, but moving is not progress. Moving could be anti-progress sometimes, and a lot of clarity could come from inactivity. And today, I want to talk to you about the use of inactivity because some of you will find yourself by force in a position where you are not doing anything, and it seems like your life has come to a grinding halt. And some of you would have to take that decision to bring your life to a halt for a period of time so that you can know where to go. Um, and this is why I feel it's important to talk to you today. I'm going to tell you about two periods in my life, and all of them center around NYSC. See, for me, NYSC was a very defining time in my life, and I'll tell you why. When I graduated from school in 2002, I graduated from university in 2002, and I was meant to serve in 2003, and and at the time of my graduation, we were asked to go home for a while and wait for the NYSC list to come out. So everything was still very traditional then. It was much tougher than it is now. So when the list, I don't know how it is done now, but then when the list for NYSC comes out, you need to travel back to school to check a list and see where your name is and see where you are posted to. So I traveled back to school, to Ife then, and I was staying in Abuja, and I traveled back to see where I was posted to on that list. And for some reason, my name was skipped from the list, and that was very funny to me because it was funny in a very strange way, not in an hilarious way at all. I felt, why was my name not put on that list? Every other person, apart from one other guy, was on that list. So every other person saw their posting, but my name was skipped. And it was devastating because at that time, at that 2002, NYSC only happened once a year. So if you missed it that year, you waited a year. Unlike now that you have batch B, batch C, batch D, whatever. I don't know how many batches they have now, but now if you miss it, a few more months you can get on board. A few more months you can get on board. So I think they have three entries into NYSC now. But for me, my name got missing, and that was devastating because I was thinking, one whole year, what will I do with my life? And so I had to write to NYSC, and they said it was a mistake and stuff like that, and I should wait for the next list to come out, which would be coming out in 2004. So I thought to myself, what do I do with myself for the whole of 2003? What will I do with myself for 12 months? And then that started what was the first phase of inactivity in my life. Now I just graduated from university. There was no job to do because I knew the next step was to do NYSC and get posted somewhere and just start that phase of my life and move on to the next thing. But then here was this unexpected break. And so I spent a lot of time just at home. And that's what happens when inactivity kicks in. The first phase of inactivity is normally boredom. And this is where a lot of us think that something is wrong. As human beings, we find this need not to be bored. But we don't understand that boredom is an incredible gift. It's something I try to tell my children every time when they say, "Oh, daddy, I'm bored. Daddy, I'm bored." I'm like, "That's good. That's good. Just lean into it. Something good will come out of it." Because boredom in itself is a gift. Boredom is a gift. And so I was bored the first few months, just waking up, sleeping, eating, looking for stuff to do, roaming the house, just feeling all round useless. Do you understand? Nothing really to do. And it became a burden on me because I felt embarrassed being at home. Every time someone came to visit us, they're like, "What are you doing at home?" I was like, "My name got skipped from NYSC and stuff." The story was so long, and some of them didn't believe. They said, maybe he has an extra year, maybe whose name gets skipped from NYSC. It was such an odd thing for your name to be left, and but I had to give that excuse every single time. And after boredom, if you can allow boredom to take its time, what will begin to happen is the next phase called unusual interest. So when you get bored for a while, you begin to look at things differently. And so your eyes begin to open to things and your mind begins to go to places where they wouldn't have gone if you were active. And that's why sometimes you realize that some people find themselves in prison. When they go to prison, they find themselves. It sounds very, contradictory because prison is meant to constrain the self. But then you realize that a lot of people, when they go to prison, they go through this phase of boredom that allows them to spend a lot of time in their mind. And by spending time in their minds, they begin to find themselves. So people write books in prison, people take courses in prison, people begin to find what they never knew was there in prison. And for me, that time was like a prison period for me. And I started to think. I started to think about, Tola, what do you really want to do with your life? You see, the importance of taking time of inactivity is you begin to question yourself. Activity can be a very distracting thing. And so I didn't have any distraction of activities. So I started to ask myself, Tola, did you really enjoy these 4 years of doing architecture? Be honest with yourself. Did you really enjoy it? And I started to tell myself, it was like the worst 4 years of my life. And that was the first time I was really being honest with myself. I said, this this my time in Ife was like the worst 4 years of my life. I was so sad. I was so sad in school. I didn't enjoy that course. And I started to think, why are you going further in a course that you didn't enjoy in school? Why do you want that to be your career the rest of your life? And I started to think, why? Why am I making such a mistake? If I don't enjoy doing this architecture, why do I want it to be my job for the rest of my life? So I became honest with myself. I said, I need to find what I want to do with the rest of my life because this architecture wasn't it. I was honest with myself and I said, I wasn't thinking like an architect. I knew I wasn't a brilliant architect. I knew that if I went into the labor market as an architect, I would not give people their money's worth. So I started to think, okay, if I wasn't doing architecture, what will I do? And then I started thinking some more. And you know what? A lot of times the answer is always in your past. The answer to what you have to do with your future, a lot of it lies in your past. And when I say past, I mean as far back as your childhood. Your childhood has a lot of answers, but a lot of you are so detached from your childhood because so much activity has gone on in your life that a lot of you cannot even remember your childhood. You see, a lot of people that think about what their passion is, their passion always lies in what they used to like to do as children. Because as children, you are not corrupt. You don't. You are not corrupted by reward. You are not corrupted by what do I get for this thing? How does it make me look? So those things you like to do as children, you did it because it made you happy. So I went back to my past. I started thinking about when I was a child, which I had not done in a very long time. And I started thinking, what was the thing I used to like to do when I was a child? And I realized, oh man, I like to draw. All right, so drawing was good, but architecture was drawing, but it wasn't the kind of drawing I wanted to do. What did I like about that kind of drawing I was doing when I was a child? And I realized it was freedom, the using of colors, the using of text, the using of, I said that's what I really like to do. And before I graduated from school, I had seen one of my friends doing graphic design. One day, I just walked into his room and was doing graphic design. That was my first time seeing someone doing graphic design. And I asked him, what are you doing? He was making a poster. And he told me he was doing graphic design. So I kept it in my head. So that day, when I was thinking in my room about what I wanted to do with my life, and I said, this graphic design is similar to what I used to do when I was a child, when I was drawing. I could use colors, I could use images. And I said, let me investigate that. So I called that my friend. And funny enough, that my friend who I saw using graphic design in school, doing graphic design in school, also happened to be the only other person in my department who his name was left out from the NYSC list. So I called him and I asked him, what are you doing? And he sounded so excited. He said he was working on some design and stuff like that. And I said, how can I get into this graphic design thing? So he told me, you need to get a software called Corel Draw. I need to get a laptop and stuff like that. And I didn't have any of those things. I'd never even heard of Corel Draw before. So I said, well, where can I get this Corel Draw? He said, go to a bookshop, just get it somewhere in the market. So I went around asking for Corel Draw. I didn't know where to get software then. So I didn't have it. So I said, okay, what's the next best thing I could use that would allow me to design on a computer? So I took my dad's computer every time he came back from work. I took his laptop and I started using what's this thing? PowerPoint. I started using PowerPoint to design. And that's how I started doing graphic design. And from using PowerPoint, I now started to meet people who knew how to use Corel Draw. And I told my mom, oh, I want to learn this graphic design thing. She told me there was someone in her office that could teach me graphic design. And I started learning graphic design from there. And the whole of 2003, I spent doing graphic design for play. Nobody paid me one single naira, but I kept on doing it. And it kept me occupied. And the interesting thing is that when you are doing something you really love, time flies really fast. So that whole year that I thought was going to be slow and boring ended up being very fast and interesting. And before I knew it, 2004 came. And when 2004 came, another NYSC list came out, and I had the chance to go for NYSC this time. So my name was put on that list. And then I went for NYSC. And during that NYSC time, I was put in, I worked in Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Housing. And like most of ministries, there was really nothing to do. You understand? There was really nothing to do. A lot of people just came to work to sell. Some of them came to sell granules. Some of them came to sell material. Some of them came, people will come to work twice a week. And I'd never been used to that kind of work ethic before. But it was my first eye opener to how the government system works, where just a few people work and a lot of people just lounge about. And so I was confused. So there was never anything to do in the office. So I always went to the office and there was nothing to do. That also led me to some inactivity. Because in my mind, my NYSC period was to learn more, but I wasn't learning jack. So I would go to work and hours would go by from 8 to 4 o'clock, nothing to do. And then boredom kicked in again. And then when boredom kicked in, remember, what always, if you let boredom take its place, what will happen is you begin to see interesting things in the ordinary things. And then I started to look around. And then I started to notice the people in the office who were also there with me. Remember, we weren't really talking then. And I started to make friends with them. And from making friends with them, I realized some of them had interest in design like me too. So we started to do collaborative design, working together, checking on each other's work. So that threw me into another end of design, which was more collaborative. First time working with other people doing graphic design. And I started to learn from them. And before you know it, it started becoming fun to go to work. Not because there was office work for us to do, but because there was this group of people who I could exchange ideas with. And before you know it, NYC period 2004 went by so fast too because I would begin to have fun. And I realized that I'd done so much work between 2000 and because between 2003 and 2004, my portfolio had grown, but I wasn't trying to grow my portfolio. I was just working from passion. Now, it now took me to the end of 2004, and we now got to 2005 after my NYSC. Now, after my NYSC, I wasn't retained. And this is where some of you, you need to be careful how you tinker with your life. Because NYSC can be a very, people can, you can lose your path in life just from that NYSC period because you have a lot of control in your hands. So I realized a lot of people tinker with their lives during NYSC. So when you're posted to a place of primary assignment, you're like, I don't like this place. I want this place. And sometimes that's the biggest mistake some of you might make with your lives. Just choosing those things that you choose with your intellect rather than going for those things that choose you out of some supernatural wisdom. So we need to be careful. A lot of people go with their minds. So they say, I was posted to a school. So you use your rational mind to think, how much will a school pay me? How much will an oil servicing company pay me? I want a rejection from this school, and I'm going to go and get accepted by this place. But then you must realize there's some things you shouldn't mess with in your life. Those things that choose you, and you don't choose them. Those things a lot of times are given to you by infinite wisdom, and that means the wisdom that chose you is too deep for you to understand. And that's why I tell people, be very careful when you relocate. When you think of relocating from a country, make sure it's a sure spiritual leading because you didn't choose that country. Something chose for you to be in that country. So you need to be very, very careful when you get up and leave a country. Be careful because that infinite wisdom that placed you in that country, none of you chose to be in Nigeria. For those that are listening from Nigeria, none of you chose to be born in whatever state you were born, whether it was Oyo, Kano, Lagos. That was chosen infinitely for you by a wisdom that is beyond you. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose the house you were born into. Those things were given to you to bless you, but a lot of us disdain them, and we now begin to look for things that are not out of infinite wisdom, but conscious wisdom. So we begin to think this place has a better weather, this place has better this, and you begin to go there. But those places were not made to bless you. So NYC can be one of those periods where some of you just change your place of primary assignment. I don't want to go to a school. But then not realizing that it's in that school that you meet your future husband or your future wife, that you meet your best friend, that you meet the career that you never knew that you could have. You know, you never know. You understand? So you want to be careful how you tinker. So a lot of people tinker when they get into NYC, and a lot of people tinker when they get out, when the NYC is about to wrap up. So they begin to think, I want to be retained here. So they begin to hustle to be retained. And sometimes being retained might be the worst thing that can happen to you because you need to leave and allow life happen. So when I wasn't retained at Ministry of Housing, I was out of a job again and just had absolutely nothing to do. So I started to apply for jobs, but there were very few. None came. I didn't even get any interview. So once again, inactivity. At home, graduated from school, finished NYSC, but no job. So I was back living with my parents, eating there, nothing to do. And one day, I was just lying down in the parlor and we were watching this thing on NTA then called AM Express. And some people came from Canada and they were recruiting people to go to school. Now, I wasn't watching the program. My mom was watching the program. And she called me and said, these people are coming from Canada and they're come to recruit Nigerians to go to Canada. Now, this was 2005. Things were very different from how they were now. Canadians were desperate to have Nigerians or anybody come to their country. They were having a serious population deficit there, and they would take anybody, man, woman, cow, donkey, whatever it was. So they were desperate. They were giving out scholarships like it was water. You understand? Because they wanted people to come. So they came to Nigeria then and they were hosting for people to come. So my mom just said, give it a try, go to this place, it's free. Go and listen to what they have to say. So I went there and I had nothing to do. Remember, inactivity, nothing. What was I doing? Still sleeping, waking up, and watching TV. So I went there, and they said they had this program, a postgraduate program for graphic design. And I'm like, wow, I'm interested in graphic design. And I said, do I want to come? Yes. And they said they will make everything easy. And right there and then, they gave me the admission letter. Right there and then, admission letter. We started processing, and within a few months, visa. It was so hard to get visa. I was off to Canada, and that's how I did my postgraduate in interactive multimedia. That happened because there was this pause. Now, imagine if I'd been retained in Ministry of Health, Housing. I would not be available because I would have been at work that time that they were watching AM Express, and I would never have had the opportunity to further my education in graphic design. And that has defined my life now. That experience in Canada, coming back to Nigeria, setting up my company, everything happened because of number one, being left out of NYSC list in 2003. Number two, being not just have been in Ministry of Health where I didn't have any work to do but to continue to do graphic design. And I will tell you what that not having work to do in Ministry of Housing, how it helped me. I told you that I met this group of people and we're always just working on graphic design projects. And I didn't know why I was working on it because nobody was paying us, but we were working on it because we didn't have any office work to do. So we did so many flyers, logos, and stuff like that. But the interesting thing, when I went for that interview with those Canadian people, with that school, they said, do I want to study graphic design? I said, yes. Then they asked me a question. They said, what did you study for your undergrad? I said, I studied architecture. And the man said, that might be a problem because you studied architecture. You do not have a portfolio to go in for graphic design on a postgraduate level. So you might have to go and do undergraduate again. I said, I will do another 4 years. I said, no. I said, you need a portfolio to do anything, to do graphic design at postgraduate level. I said, portfolio, what is a portfolio? Portfolio is a body of work of stuff you've done. And I had my laptop, opened it, and I said, these are stuff I've done for the past 2 years, 2023 too. And she said, this is a portfolio. This is a portfolio. And she looked at it there and said, this is a portfolio. You've been doing graphic design. And that's when they gave me the admission letter right there. You understand? So you see, all those inactivity, useless work, all added up to something. So what I'm trying to tell you is sometimes embrace taking a break. It doesn't have to be from primary school to secondary school to university to NYSC to masters to marriage to every. You see, our life goes too fast that we never stop to think and say, where is my life going? You understand? Sometimes we allow the sequence of life, of organized life, determine our life. And that's why a lot of people, when they get to my age, when you're in your 40s, they begin to think, I don't really like my job. I don't really love my wife. I don't really like anything about what's going on in my life. They realize that they didn't really take time to choose anything. It just happened to them. It happened so fast. It was just the next phase. So you have people having a master's, a PhD on something they actually hate doing. And that's what I was going to do. I was going to have a master's in architecture when I didn't even enjoy my undergraduate in architecture. Do you understand? But all it took was a moment of pause, a moment of inactivity. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're doing your NYSC, you're about to finish, don't be so eager to go into the labor market or the workforce. Take some time. Take some time to stop and think, and take like an like a real accurate thought of your life. You understand? And say, do I enjoy this journey? Have I enjoyed the process thus far? Do I know where I'm going? Do I like where I'm going? Do I like the people I'm going with? You understand? You need to ask yourself those questions so that you can begin to course correct. Because a lot of you are in your 20s, most of you in your early 30s. You want to do it before you get into your 40s. You understand? It's very hard to course correct after you've made certain decisions. And one of those decisions is after you've gotten married. And it gets incredibly hard after you've had children. It gets incredibly hard the older you get when your parents retire and they're now dependent on you. It gets incredibly hard when you have younger people that now need you to help sponsor them through school. It's hard to course correct. It becomes hard to be selfish at that point in time. You need to be selfish with your life very early on in your 20s, when you just left school, when you just finished NYSC, when you just graduated, when you're about to graduate. Be selfish with your life then. And what I mean by being selfish is know what you want and go after what you want. So you must take time to stop. Stop, think. Stop, think. It gets boring, but boredom is not a bad thing. Boredom is an awesome gift. If you allow it, just take its time, your eyes will begin to open to things around you and how interesting they are. With boredom, have you ever been in a place where you are in a situation with somebody, with a human being, that on a good day, let's say somebody in your class, somebody in your office, you don't really talk with them. But for some reason, you're traveling on a journey and that person is sitting beside you. That person is sitting beside you and you have a 6 hour journey. You will start to talk with that person. And some of you will find that that person you were ignoring because of the distraction of activity with other people was actually an interesting person to start talking to. That is why a lot of us need inactivity in our lives. We need inactivity to give us a sense of direction, to give us a sense of reorientation at the end of the day. So I'm going to stop here because you might have some questions, but then I hope it makes sense to one or two people here that inactivity is something you should embrace, not something you should run away from. Sometimes we had wrong orientation from our parents who told us by the time I left school, there was a job waiting for me. And they said it like it was a good thing. It's not really a good thing for you to leave school and a job is waiting for you. You should leave school and get to think. I think at every single stage, after primary school, children should be given a time to think. Secondary school, give them a time, at least a year to think. University, give them a year to think before they go for NYSC. NYSC, a year to think before they start working. You understand? Have at least a year to think. It will be an incredible thing that you realize, incredible things will begin to happen in your life if you just give yourself some time of inactivity. So I don't know if anyone has any questions at this point.
All right, thanks so much, sir. So, in case you have any question, please let's sit in the chat box. And if you, all right, I see some hands up. Okay, all right. So, all right. So, I don't know. I think this. Okay, let's hear from you. Promise. Promise. Let's have your question. All right. I think promise is not good. Right. Abdullah, let's hear from you. Abdullah.
Good evening, good evening, everyone. Good evening to the organizers. I really appreciate you coming up with this program for the youths, those currently serving and those upcoming to serve their country, Nigeria. Um, Shortly, I heard from my guest speaker. Let me put it that way. Permit me to say that word. My network is not good there. So he made mention of when you get to a certain stage of life that you're thinking about how can you make your life a successful one, or how can you enjoy your life. Think back to your childhood journey, which is a stage of life whereby you can never lie to yourself. You know what you do that makes you happy, that you love doing without anyone paying you, which that will be your passion. So I'm having a kind of experience here which it baffles me every day. I'm currently serving in Nasarawa, whereby I was posted to a school. So in the school I was posted to, the should I say, let me say the locality there is too local for my own standard. I'm so sorry to say that, but as well I'm not sorry to say that too. So to the extent that today we had the graduation party. In the process of every graduation party all over the state in Nigeria, I don't know for other country, there's always a program that always come up, and it was the student that will participate as the presentation may be either dancing, reading, debate, whatever that is going to happen. So it happens that in my class or in the school, as a teacher, so I had to like pick up some students to come and participate in the program that will be done on the day, which is today. In the process, I have the sensitivity of the parent are behind the student not effectively participating, or at the end giving up when the floor was given to them, like if you're interested in doing this or in participating in this, come outside or signify. They were all excited to like participate, like I will do this, everybody will see me on that day, kind of. So it gets to the point after they were given points to like participate in, or points to present that day, you just notice, like I just noticed, like some days it will be like, go and tell your auntie, go and tell your uncle that you're not doing it again, or the turnout of the rehearsal or the practice, it's not encouraging. uh, when I meet them, what happened? You don't call. My mommy said I should not do again. What kind of is it that they are not exposed? And even though if they are not exposed, they should be excited that like their children is going to present to the public, have the confidence to present something, and even learn something more that not all his or her mates will be able to be learning. So that kind of situation, is it not like underrating a child, or like diminishing the potential of a child? Can such a child sit down and imagine a brighter future for him or herself? How they thinking that such child can be having is like, if I say I should do this now, my mom will discourage me. My mom will say I should not do. If I said I should do this now, my daddy will not. So it will affect such child in higher level of life. So in what way can one come into that, or what are the strategies to curb that, and to maybe to sensitize the parents not to affect the mentality, or the broad view of brighter future that the such child has from the like low level thinking of the parents. Thank you so much, sir.
And that's a good question, and it's a good question. And you see, I like what you said. Um, you see, that's the thing about this NYSC thing. You see, he said something about being posted to a school that just seems to be too local for him. But then a lot of times we get so caught up in what we want to get out of an environment. And this is where I'll go back to that. Be very careful about things that call you rather than things that you call. And you see, you got called to that school. You didn't choose that school, and so you were called for a reason. So a lot of times it's not really about what you are going to get. It's about what you have to offer. You understand? And you can see what you've noticed about those kids and how those parents are playing a very strong role in their lives. You have a part to play. And this way, when people get sent to schools that are so far removed from civilization, um, for some of those students, you are going to be the most enlightened mind that they will get to meet in their lives. The most enlightened mind. You are going to be the only light that they're going to get to see for a very long time. So you must take advantage of it. But a lot of people don't get that opportunity to give up that opportunity to be a light to others. So back to your question, when we were talking about how you see a child that has grown and been discouraged by his parents a lot, um, how does he get back on track? Now that's a real question, and that's so true, because one thing I realized is from my mentoring and advising people over time, because have a lot of people reach out to me and ask me questions in areas of confusion, and I realized that one of the biggest stumbling blocks that people have in clarity about life are this group of people called parents. And not like the parents mean to be a stumbling block in their own children's progress or career or well-being. It's just that they don't know any better. You understand? And sometimes you see this parent-child dynamics is something we need to be careful of, because a lot of you right now, you went into university to please your parents. You went to university to study what you studied to please your parents. And at a point in time, this pleasing has to stop, or else you are not going to be pleased with your life. And so I think number one, we over prioritize our parents' happiness. We over prioritize it. We over prioritize whether mommy will be happy or daddy will be happy. And when you over prioritize it, we over prioritize at the expense of our own happiness. And that doesn't have to do with, I know 40, 50-year olds that still can't make decisions until mommy or daddy directs them. And that's why this NYSC period, a lot of people try to do NYSC very close to home, and try to school very close to home, and try to, so their secondary school, primary school, university, NYSC, job, everything is so close to home. I think a lot of times we need this outside home experience. Oh, there's so much clarity that comes when we just spend a year away from home, a year away from home. And so there is a gift in being in a state that is a state where you don't know anybody. You understand? There's no family. There's a gift in being that. So because that home influence can cloud your judgment a lot of times, and that's why when I was younger, as I said, I love to draw, but I grew up in the 80s, and drawing was not something anybody did as a career. So it wasn't a very popular decision or something that was really, encouraged by my parents. Say, oh, go and draw, and they will buy you notepads. And no. They hardly used to buy drawing stuff for me, because it was about being a professional. So when I wanted to draw, I used to draw on the back of calendars. You understand? So those big calendars, when the month was over, I'll take it and I'll draw at the back, because I didn't have drawing instruments. You understand? But then I was able to keep it in mind that I love drawing. Now, what happened when you have that time to break away from home? Take advantage of it to experiment with things. Do you understand? Experiment with those careers that you know that if daddy were here, he won't allow you to. If mommy were here, they won't allow you to. And that's why I really believe that even when you're in the university, the kind of universities we have nowadays are not helping people, because people go from home to university. So they're always at home. I think university should be a place where you allow a child go, let them stay in the dormitory, let them stay away from home, because it's very important to find yourself outside of your parents' influence. But if you are too tied to your parents' apron, your mom's apron, your daddy's belt, you will only become a caricature of them. You understand what I'm saying? And with all due respect, a lot of our parents don't know what they are doing with their lives. A lot of them don't know. And you only find out after they retire. You see, you will know somebody that is fulfilled with their life when they retire, and someone that didn't even know what they were doing. So it's at retirement that they start looking for what their passion is. You don't want to be like that. At retirement, you want to be thankful about what you've done with your life, not to start living your life and say, okay, now I want to start fish farming. You understand? At almost 70. You understand? But you spent a lot of your life working in a bank. You understand what I'm saying? So So it's a very unfortunate thing that happens to some of our parents. So a lot of us, I'll tell you, don't want to end up like your parents. You don't want to end up, so you must make better informed decisions. And some of those informed decisions would mean making your own decisions. And it's easier to make your own decisions when you are away from home. And so, what I would tell you right now is you be a light to those children. Yes, they might go home and their parents say, don't be part of this, but you must always encourage them so that even if they cannot participate in the dance, in the activity, their parents say, don't do it. You, as a teacher, because teachers have a very strong influence on their students, you, as a teacher, must tell them how good they are at dance because they will remember it. Trust me, their parents might not allow them to do it when they are 10, 11, 12. But you telling them at 10, 11, 12 that, oh man, you are a very good dancer. I've never seen anybody dance as well as you. That thing will stay in their mind and it will activate when they are 22. You understand? That word stays in people's mind. I had an auntie that was very close to me that always told me how great my drawing was. That thing stayed in my mind, stayed in my mind till I was in my 20s when I started to go back to drawing again and design again. You see, people keep those things that mean something to them. You want to be that voice that says those things that mean something to people. You understand? So, how you can help those children is validate them. Validate them, even if their parents are not allowing them to express it now. A time would come when life would allow them some distance from their parents. And that your voice will kick in to tell them, you know what, try this thing. Try this thing. This 1 year you've been away, try this thing and try to do this thing that you wouldn't have the privilege of doing at home. You understand? So that'll be my advice, you understand? Once you find what you can do as a child, what you really need is a validating voice of an older person. So a lot of you here, you have the responsibility to be validating voices to younger people in your surrounding, in your homes. You have nephews, nieces, some of you have younger brothers and stuff. You should be that validating voice. Very important to be that validating voice. Even though they might still, your parents or their parents might still tell them, you are going to be an engineer by force, and that person says, I want to be a singer. Don't worry about that. You just validate them. You're an amazing singer. You're a great singer. You understand? Buy them things that help them to remember. A time will come when they would have that freedom from their parents, and then your validating voice is going to help them to have the audacity to try out those things that the restrictions of their parents never allowed them to. So I don't know if there are any other questions. I think we have some questions in the chat. If you can just help me read out the question, Yomi.
All right, sir. Right. So Tola is asking about that. Messi said, in the situation where one has already thanked good his experience so much, is it possible to maximize the experience?
And so,
I
that's a
particularly
good question. Sorry, are you still saying something? All right, so that's a good question for Mercy. I know I talked about tinkering. When you tinker with something so much, and you're like, can you tinker your way out so much that there is no way out again? And no, you cannot. The truth of the matter is, but you can stop. You can stop tinkering. You see, this is where tinkering is just like the there was a time when I was growing up. I'll give this example. When I was in my adolescent years, I used to have a lot of acne, and it used to bother me. You understand? So I used to have acne. I don't know whether they were a lot or just used to bother me. So it seemed like a lot. And I used to be impatient with them. So what they call acne, like pimples. And so I used to be impatient. because people take some time to go. They have their own lifespan, so it can take some 2 days, 3 days. Some can be very stubborn, take a week. But then it's highly important that you let it live its lifespan, because there's something that happens with it when you tinker with it and you tamper with it. It has a way of getting deeper and forming blackheads. So because I was impatient, I used to tinker, they used to cause a lot of blackheads. Now, the truth of the matter is, I don't have those blackheads anymore, because at a point I decided I tinkered enough. You see, when you realize that you've tinkered enough and you just stop, what you do is you stop tinkering. You understand? And then you start allowing, because the truth is that life has a way of resetting. It does have a way of resetting. If you give it some time, the only thing that might have happened is that you've wasted a lot of time pushing at a door that life was closing at you. But um, you need to allow yourself stop. Stop saying I want to control too much of my life. And this is how you must always think of things. Be very, as I said, be very careful of those things that call out, those things that gave you no option. And when I say no option, you didn't choose them; they chose you. You understand? Be very careful how you're dismissive of them, and be very careful of how you're embracing of things that you rationalize. Be very careful, because your knowledge is very limited, and so we must be we must what I'm going to tell Mercy is, begin to allow life happen. And that's a very hard thing, because we've been told to get on top of life too much. We've been told to take control of things, to do, we've been told. So we don't enjoy life. You understand? You need to allow, you need to begin to allow life happen. You need to be less strategic about your life. Less strategic, enjoy it more. Um, Meet people for the not because of what you want to get out of them. You understand? Have conversations not because of what you want to get out of them. And so I don't think you can ever tinker or tamper with your life, of course. You understand? But what you can do is stop tinkering and allow your life to happen to you. Allow things to happen to you. You see, one thing I've realized in my over 40 years is the best things that have happened to me were not things that I planned. The best things that have happened to me were things that actually happened to me, not things I worked towards, not things I earned, things that actually just happened. And you see, I always tell people about my relationship life. I remember when I was leaving school, and I didn't have a girlfriend, and everybody around me, my friends, most of my friends had girlfriends, and here I was, this final year student, no girlfriend. And when there's a way when you go home, they ask you, okay, about to finish now, is there any girl, is there any this? And I said, no, nobody. And I was like, what are you going to do in school? What are you going to do in school? Just went there to just go and read, and nothing happened. And at that point I thought, if I didn't meet a girl in school, is it now in the real world that I'll now meet, when there were so many girls in school? So I thought to myself, I am going to go out and get a girlfriend. So it now became an action towards getting a girlfriend. And so I went out. I started trying to strategize and look at girls and stuff like that. And I met this girl, and I just decided she was going to be my girlfriend. You understand? She was going to be my girlfriend because there was no way I was graduating without having a girlfriend. And so we went out for a while. And before you know it, less than a year, the relationship broke. You understand? It didn't work because I was a bad boyfriend. I wasn't mature enough to be a boyfriend. She herself did not understand me. You understand? So we both messed it up. You understand what I'm saying? So it didn't work out. It was one of those things that shouldn't have happened. But then after which, I now realized, look, I shouldn't try to make this thing happen. This thing will happen when it will happen. So I just started living my life. After that relationship broke, I just said, no, you know what? I'm not going out to look for any girlfriend again. I'm not going to live my life. If they invite me somewhere, I'll go meet people for the sake of meeting them. And it was just one day that I went out, and where I sat down, the person who is my wife now, who's my wife for over 12 years now, just came and sat down next to me and started talking. There was no strategy towards it. She came, we sat down. that seat was meant for me. The next seat beside her was meant for her. Life made it happen. The one I tried to do by myself ended up badly. The one that I allowed life to do has been with me for the past 12 years. We have children together. It's a beautiful marriage. So sometimes you just need to relax. You understand? Don't tinker too much. Just enjoy life. You understand? Just enjoy your life. Life wants to take care of you. That's why it's called mother nature. You understand? It wants to mother. It wants to mother you. It wants to parent you. It wants to give you the best. But a lot of times we want to mother ourselves. So we approach life like we are orphans. So we hustle our way through it, and then we get the hard end of life, not the easy end of life. I don't know if you have any more questions. I think it's 8:45 right now, so I might
Yes,
have to
sir.
leave very soon.
There are still, yes, sir. Like there are a lot of questions in the chat box. Okay, there's someone asking that. I'll just read out the question so that I just summarize, sir. So someone said, how that Cynthia said, how about those people who need immediate source of income and at the same time need time to find themselves? Said, please, what do you advise they do? And that person also said, someone was asking about your relationship with God. Said, my question is I noticed that you have a good relationship with God. Are there things you do differently that you can tell us that we help us? That's from Innocent. So
Okay.
and that person also said, does this seems that one rejection seemingly good opportunity to allow one time for inactivity? Do you get that question?
I get that
Because
question.
actually,
I get what he's trying to say.
all right, sir. Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
those are the questions, sir.
Okay. All right. So if I forget any one of the questions, I'll let you know. I'll start from the last question, which
All
is
right,
one I
sir.
remember the most right now. Rejection. Rejections are not a bad thing. You understand? Rejections are not a bad thing. We need to stop approaching them as a bad thing. Rejections are not bad. Um, they might tell us, they tell us, rejections tell us one of two things. Number one, it tells us this thing is not meant for us. It tells us this thing is not meant for us now. You understand? So it could tell us this thing is not meant for us. Or it could tell us this thing is not meant for us now. And this thing is not meant for us now could be the fact that you need to improve on yourself before going for this thing. You understand? You still have some things in your life that need to fall off before you go for this thing. You understand? So rejection is not bad. You understand? A lot of times rejection is might be life's way of diverting our path towards where we ought to be. It feels bad. It feels bad, especially when we hold on to this rugged outcome of how things should be. So a lot of people feel bad about rejection because we do not have our minds open to an alternate answer. So you feel bad about a rejection when you go for an interview in a place because you feel you must work in that place. But then you must always be open to the fact that it might work, it might not work. You understand? I've had a couple of rejection in my life, and but they've only made me years later. I realized this rejection has only made me wiser and better. You understand? They've only made me wiser and better at the end of the day. Um, I remember um, when I came back from Canada, I I was I went for my first job interview. My first job interview, and I got rejected. It was at BBC. It was at BBC here, and I just wanted to get that job at BBC. You understand? Because it sounded good. It sounded good. So in the long run, my reason itself wasn't even good. I wanted to do it to please my parents, to boost my ego, and just say I worked at BBC. But I got rejected, and it was pretty bad. You understand? Because the way I was treated and everything didn't feel good. But then what that rejection did, the person said my work wasn't good enough, and I felt, man, that really hurt because I felt, man, I just come back from Canada, I've learned, and I knew my work was good, but this guy said my work wasn't good enough. And I remember that day when that guy rejected my work, I went back home and I built my website. I built my website, my first ever website, from that thought of this guy said my work wasn't good. And when I built that website was so good. I got so many people contact me through that website for years, telling me, "Oh, come and speak to us." That website got me a lot of speaking engagement. Come and speak to us about how to design, how to do this. And that website now got me a job that I later had. Because some people just saw my website and say, "You did this website. Can you come for this interview here?" And when I worked in that place, I met a lot of the people that I started my company with, my first initial partners. I'll never have met them if I was never rejected the first time. So that rejection built up something in me to dig deeper, you understand, and to really dig deeper to what I could do. So rejection it's not a bad thing. Rejection, you should learn to embrace it. It's part of life. And it helps us to course correct, and it helps us to get on the right path sometimes. It also helps us to reflect about whether we can be better as people. So rejection is not bad. Um, the first question, the person was saying people in need of urgent money and also need to find clarity with their lives. Um, you see, this our need for urgent money is something that we we struggle with because we are we are scared of the eventuality of not having money. And money is a good thing, but money works best for people that have answers. People that don't have answers, money only confuses you the more. Because with money comes fake friends, fake fake compliments, you know, fake a lot of things. You understand? So when you have money, you never know whether people are telling you the truth or not. And that's why I would rather have clarity first than have money later. Because when I'm clear about what I want to do, and I'm clear, I have a clear conscience about what I'm doing, I would know those who are with me. And so I've seen way too many people that are not good at something, but they are from very privileged homes. And a lot of people tell them, "Oh, you're so good at this thing." But the reason why they're telling them is because they want to get into their daddy's pocket. You understand? They want to get into their daddy's good book. But then they're not helping that child, because that child is going to end up being a mediocre. And a time is going to come when the daddy is going to go, and that child is going to be left thinking he's good at something and can't do anything. So I really, really believe that when you do not have money and people give you a compliment, that compliment must be real. You understand? It has to be real. So if you're a writer and you don't have money to, like, like someone that people are trying to get something out of, and they can tell you what you wrote is good, that thing must be good, because there is nothing else to compromise people's opinion. You understand? They are saying it just because they cannot deny it. You understand? So if one thing I realized that we need to be able to curb this our thought of urgent money. You understand? And what we normally call urgent money is a need for what we call survival, which is not falling beyond a particular status in life. So what we call survival a lot of times is not really survival. It's just status maintenance. So what I mean is when someone says, "Man, I need this money," they are not saying they won't find money to eat. It's just that they are going to have to soak gari for the next 1 week. You understand? So it's not a do or die affair. It's just, I really don't want to soak gari. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like I have urgent need for money, or else I wouldn't have clothes to wear. It just means I'm going to wear this shoe that the sole has bent like this a bit for another 2 months. Then I don't want to go through that embarrassment again. So what people call survival is either is a need to want to break out of a particular status level, or to maintain a particular status level. It's not survival. Survival is, if this doesn't happen, I will die. That means if I don't have this money, there's not even Gary to take. But the problem is, I think the thing is, a lot of people ought to be more willing to take that Gary. You understand? That Gary is not, you see, you might not like it, but for the sake of finding yourself, it is worth taking Gary. It is worth suffering for. So people's not willing to suffer, your unwillingness to suffer only prolongs your lack of identity. You see, I'll tell you something. I'm here talking to you. I have a family. I'm doing quite well in my career, but it didn't always start out that way. It was very hard choosing this career of design and even now talking and speaking. Very, very hard. There were a lot of things that my mates could afford, building houses, buying cars that I couldn't do because I was chasing my passion. But now, when a lot of my mates are getting older, they are getting they are losing energy. They're now beginning to look for what they really want to do, but don't have the energy to chase it. I am already past that level of looking for. I'm not chasing. It's now beginning to take on a life of its own. It's now rolling on its own. I'm now beginning to live an easier life when they are beginning to search. You see, but that came because I chose to suffer first. You understand? So that I could enjoy later. A lot of us want to enjoy first, then suffer later. But the problem is we always choose to suffer when our bodies are weak. It's better to suffer when your body is strong. It's better to suffer in your 20s than to suffer in your 60s. Because in your 60s, you don't even have the strength. You understand? And in that, it's terrible taking Gary at 60. You understand? Because your body actually needs those nutrients more. You understand what I'm saying? When you take Gary at 24, you still have reserve of energy and fat within you. You understand that kind of thing? At 60, you can't be taking just anything. So I would say that urgent need for money, you need to question whether it's really an urgent need for money or just a need not to fall below luxury. And luxury could be anything. Luxury could be, I don't want to go from using iPhone 14 to using just a normal Samsung. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you might need to sell that iPhone 14, use a normal touchlight phone. You understand what I'm saying? You need to. So what people call urgent need for money is urgent need for luxury. You understand? It's really not survival. You would realize that if you let that urgent need for money, if you let it go, you won't die. You understand? So taking that time of of a break to say that time of a break, I'm not making money. But then you see, young people have their priorities wrong in today's world. So I see 20 something year olds eager to just have apartments of their own. You understand? But to be honest with you, I tell people this, I lived with my parents till I was 31 years old. Till I was 31 years old, I lived with my parents. But I don't live with my parents anymore right now. And it's not written on my head. But you see, living with my parents allowed me to build my company without thinking of rent, allowed me to focus on building my company without thinking of NEPA bill and all those other things, without thinking of going to go and buy provision. It was embarrassing. You understand? Sometimes it was embarrassing because some visitors will come and say, Antola, you're still staying here. You should be out by now. Should they? But then I knew what I was building towards. Now that I've left the house, nobody knows I lived with my parents. If I never told you, you never know. But you see, I had to suffer first some embarrassment. I didn't go for that urgent need for money. My friends that went for urgent needs for money, a lot of them took some bank jobs that they are stuck in right now because they had urgent need for money because they didn't want that embarrassment of staying with their parents or having to ask for pocket money when they were still in their late 20s, late 30s. But you see, that will not happen forever. So you sometimes forget that urgent need for money and do the most important need first. The urgent need for identity is more important than the urgent need for money because when you find yourself, one thing will happen, you become attractive. And when you become attractive, people will begin to clamor for you and money will find you attractive instead of you being urgently in need for it. Money will be in urgent need to be in your association, to be in your custody. So think about it that way. I can't remember what the second question was, sorry. The middle question.
Yes, sir. It is about your relationship with God, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
All right, all right. That's a good question, and I think it's a good question to end this session on. Um, and that's why, for me, I'm a very spiritual person because I've realized the limitation of the brain. Our brain is very limited. It only goes by experience, and our experience can be faulty. Our experience can be corrupt. And the only thing higher than the brain is spirituality. Um, you know, I don't mince my words. I've said it before. If you are not close to God, you'll be close to confusion. You have to choose one. Either you're close to God or you're close to confusion. And I see a lot of people, young people, trying to find their way in life by without a relationship with God. It's never going to happen, because what a relationship with God does is that, number one, it gives you wisdom, and wisdom is allows you to see things what beyond your experience, beyond your education, beyond your exposure. You understand? Wisdom allows you to see things beyond what you've been equipped by naturally to see. Um, and you know, when we stop being logical and start being spiritual, you realize that these external influences will begin to wane. So it's very hard to not be affected by social media that tells you that, oh, your mates are doing this now, this person is making this, to not be sad if you do not have a relationship with God. It's a relationship with God that allows you to stay focused even when around you it seems like people are telling you are not making progress. It's that internal voice that tells you are doing the right thing. You are doing the right thing, my son. You are doing the right thing, my daughter. Very important. Those are the most important things to do. So my relationship with God is a key factor to having a lot of clarity in life. When I left Canada, it was a very unpopular thing. People were coming people were coming back. The plane was coming towards Canada. I was boarding a plane that was going away from Canada. That was a very unpopular thing. My parents didn't want me to leave Canada. Nobody encouraged me to leave. But it was a spiritual decision. I knew I had a mission here in Nigeria. So I came back. It would have been hard if I wasn't a spiritual person. I would have gone with, this Canada is good now. The food is good, the road is good, internet is fast, people are nice. Why am I going back to Nigeria where it's unstable? But then it has been one of the best decisions of my life, because I'm happy. You understand? I can actually say I'm happy. Very few people can say that about their lives. I'm happy, I'm fulfilled. Um, and it takes God to find true happiness, to know what it is you are meant to do with your life. So yeah, relationship with God is very important. So what would I ask you to do? The person saying, what would I suggest you do?
Yes,
I would say
your advice for us, sir.
my advice for you is um, to rest. You understand? I don't know how to make that any clearer. One thing I realize with younger people today is that they are not resting. And I'm not talking about resting by sleeping. I'm saying resting by not being strategic. Um, and I would say rest. Um, Rest and know God is in control of your life. Um, Rest. Even when things don't work out in the way you desire, rest as someone is in control of your life. I've come to realize that when you rest, God works. When you work, God rests. That's the way it works. So when you are doing something and you're pushing too much, it's stealing your sleep, it's stealing your rest, it's stealing your health, then you're probably on the wrong path. Um, Rest. You understand? Rest in God. Um, don't push too hard for things. Don't push too hard to make things happen. Don't push too hard to make things happen. Be graceful. And what graceful means is that you do it easily. You see, I've been talking to you people for the past how many hours now? No book. I don't have any book, no jotter, no nothing. I'm going to talk like this tomorrow somewhere else. I hardly write down anything. I don't cram anything. I just come and tell you what what I feel spiritually led to tell you, and it always flows. If I had a book, I will be stuttering. I will be stammering. You understand? I won't know what to say. I'll probably get stuck. But there's no question anybody asks me here that I don't feel I cannot answer, because I'm resting. I'm letting the spirit teach me and I'm just talking. Do you understand? That's what's called grace. And some of you should allow grace to flow in your life more. Don't hustle too much. That hustle culture is too much in today's society amongst young people, trying to make it work by all means. Don't hustle too much. do your best and leave it. You understand? Take time to rest. You understand? Take time to rest in God. And if you have a spiritual book, if you read the Bible is what you read, read it. You understand? Some of you, the Quran you read it and understand it. You understand? Read it as much as possible. But understand what you read. Don't be in a rush. But yeah, rest would be my advice. I'm resting. You see, if I tell you something, this year I've done the least work, but I've benefited most financially this year. It's amazing. But many years ago, I would work from 9 to 5. Nine was 9 to 5. 9 to 9 in the night, I wouldn't eat. I would eat very late. I would come back with ulcer pain, and I'll just make a little money. But I realize now that I rest, people just call me and just say, "We want to work with you." You understand what I'm saying? It's not hard. So rest and be generous with your gift. Very important. So that's the last thing I'll tell you. Be generous with your gift. Some of you are gifted in different things. Don't let how much people would pay you stop you from expressing those gifts or giving those gifts. I'm talking to you now. I'm not being paid to talk to you, but it's a pleasure to talk to you. You understand? Some places I talk, I get paid. But don't let money ever be a hindrance, a barrier between you expressing your gift and giving your gift. You understand? Somebody needs your gift. You understand? Express it. And believe that as you give it, it will flow back into your life. So don't be too strategic. Some of you are not doing things because you don't have clients. Some of you are not doing things because the money they are paying you is too small. No, no, no. Do it because you love it. Do it because you feel convinced about it. Do it because you have a passion for it. Do it because you have a spiritual leading to do it. And that in itself is rest. Rest is just doing it because it's like play to you, not because it's like work.